More and more social casinos keep popping up all over the internet. You see ads for them on Facebook, you see ads for them on websites, and you might even see ads for them on YouTube. But are these actually legitimate? What do they mean? What is the difference between a social casino and a legitimate online casino? And most importantly, are they real slots and how do they work? In today's episode, we are taking a deep dive into social casinos and online slots. Welcome back everybody to the Cowboy Slot Channel. My name's Brantley, I'm a slot technician, and on this channel, I give you guys tips, advice, and reviews on various slot games so that you can become a better gambler and have a better time in the casino. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to stay notified for when the next videos come out. Now, this topic is a rather hot button ethical issue. It has people on the internet very divided on both sides, both for and against social casinos. In this episode today, I will only be covering the facts about these games and about the operations of these games so that you, the viewer, can make the best choice for you. With that being said, this is an educational classroom setting and we're going to maintain a level of decorum. I would like to kindly ask that if you do choose to comment on this video, please do keep it civil and do not call out names or attack other people in the comments for their viewpoints. I thank you in advance for helping to maintain an orderly classroom setting. The official position of Cowboy Slots on social-based casinos is that we do not support nor endorse any social online gaming. We will solely be delivering the facts so that you, the viewer, can make an informed decision. Any mentions of any companies that we do in this episode are for example purposes only and do not constitute any kind of endorsement whatsoever from our brand. Topics that we're going to cover in today's video include the following. What are social casinos and how can you tell? The legalities of social sweepstakes-based casinos in the United States. If you're watching this episode from another country, this episode might not apply to you. The difference between a social casino and a legitimate online real slots. The technical workings of social casinos and how they compare to real slot machines. And finally, the dangers and cautions that you need to be aware of before you decide to enter your bank account information and play anything online. So let's start with number one. What are social casinos and how can you tell? A social casino relies on sweepstake law here in the United States. This is where the user makes a purchase in exchange for an entry for a prize. This can be a physical purchase such as a Coca-Cola from McDonald's for a Monopoly piece, or in the case of most social casinos, the purchase of gold coins that can then be converted into sweeps coins that you can then risk and gamble for additional sweeps coins. When you are playing these social casinos online, you will notice that it does not use currency verbiage during play. This is oftentimes abbreviated as something such as SC or sweeps coins rather than US dollars. They have to use this tactic essentially to navigate legal loopholes in order to operate in the United States. Because if they were to use actual currency terminology, then they would have to be permitted as a casino and operate as an actual casino. Some examples of more popular social-based casinos include places like Lucky Land, Chumba, McLuck, and there are thousands more. Well, here's your first red flag. Folks, these guys are not actual casinos. They legally cannot be casinos in the United States. Regardless of what their name might be, I myself can go out and open a restaurant and call it casino. It doesn't make it one. Just because it's called a casino does not mean it can operate as an actual licensed regulated casino. This is no different. So how are these places allowed to operate here? That gets us into number two, which is the legalities. Majority of social casinos that you find online are not physically based in the United States, but rather based in other countries overseas. Many of these places might have their local gaming agency grant them certificates in order to operate. But the big critical element here is that those certificates that are issued by other countries are not honored here in the United States. When it comes to making their services available in the United States, they have to use various tactics to navigate around a complicated system of sweepstakes laws that we have here in the States. And each state is going to vary on their sweepstakes laws. Not all states allow sweepstakes. The big thing to remember here and the big critical element is while some of these websites might tout that they have a gaming license, the jurisdiction that they're licensed in is not legally honored here in the United States, and it does not grant them the right to be called a casino here in the United States or operate as a casino in the United States. Picture it like this. You can go and get a concealed carry permit in your state, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can then run over to Europe and run around with your special item. They're not going to honor your concealed carry permit in another country. This is a tactic that a lot of these places use, and it's a marketing gimmick at best, and it's one that you should be aware of. In the United States, however, sweepstakes are allowed in most states with a few exceptions. The problem with our sweepstakes laws is that they are rather antiquated and they're rather gray, because when those laws were established, they did not account for social wagering over the internet at the time that those laws were created. Some states have recently pushed to change this, but it has been a very slow process. Here is going to be your red flag number 2. Anytime that you enter your banking account information into one of these online social casinos, most of these places are based overseas and you're sending your money to an overseas agency. Players typically have zero clue that this is actually going on. The problem with this is several of these businesses run and operate in jurisdictions that are more prone to hacking and data mining of personal information, and oftentimes operate in areas with little protection of digital data. Red flag number 3 actually has to do with our sweepstakes laws here in the United States as well. Sweepstakes in the United States unfortunately have very little systems of actual checks and balances in terms of how they operate. Again, this mostly has to do with the fact that our sweepstake laws are relatively gray and very antiquated as to not to accommodate social internet wagering. Long story short, you as the player have very little to no protections whatsoever when you participate in these social online activities, regardless of what the website says. These websites are allowed to deny you their service, and you have very little recourse for financial recovery. And if you ever find yourself in a point where you might want to sue one of these places, then you're going to find yourself in a very lengthy and now international legal battle. The sad and unfortunate thing is many of these issues actually do arise fairly frequently on these social casino platforms. I have heard several stories where people that play at these online social casinos have little to no issues actually recovering their cash until the day that they win something large. Then all of a sudden they get booted for no reason and have no resource to recover. There are enough stories on the internet of people having these issues, enough to raise alarm bells. Overall, the legalities of social casinos operating here in the United States rides a very fine line between legal loopholes and ethical issues. If a business has to bob and weave between several loopholes in order to operate, that is enough to raise concerns there in of itself. So how can you as a player recognize the difference between a real legitimate online casino with real online slots and a social casino? That brings us to point number 3. This is something that you do have to make a very big distinction between. In the United States, we do have several states that have allowed for legal, regulated online gaming. There is a massive difference between a social casino and a legal and regulated online casino. This extends far beyond marketing tactics and actual operation, legal definition, and player protection. These legal and registered online casinos that are legitimate and have real online slots are more commonly found in the eastern part of the United States, with at the moment fewer than 10 states actually participating. A legal and licensed online casino has to follow very strict guidelines with gaming oversight. They must have a proper system in place for things like player protection, cybersecurity for data, and gaming oversight, and of course resources for problem gambling. Some examples of legal, regulated, real online casinos here in the United States include casinos such as FanDuel, MGM, Caesars, DraftKings, and there are a couple more. These are going to operate just like a traditional brick and mortar casino would, and will actually show you dollar amounts as you are playing the game, instead of masking it with something like SC or sweeps coins or anything like that. So now this is the fun part. How do both online casinos, the real and legal ones, and social casinos actually operate and function? Are these real slot machines that you're playing? That gets into point number 4. Let's start with how a social casino operates from the very start. A person will first have to make a purchase. Typically, this is something called gold coins, which then the player can convert into sweeps coins to actually play a game on. The biggest critical element here to remember is that those sweeps coins are not actually traditional tokens that you would put into a slot machine or a traditional ticket that you would put into a slot machine, but rather each one is an entry into a contest for a prize pool. Sweepstakes are also required by law to have a no purchase necessary clause where a person can write into the business and request an entry for free. This is typically done by mail. So when you log into one of these social casinos and you have your sweeps coins ready and you're ready to play, you're oftentimes brought up to a screen that makes it look exactly like a slot machine would. You wager your sweeps coins and you push that digital button. But what you're actually doing is with every button push, you are entering in for a prize pool that is associated with that game. This is an accelerated version of, you guessed it, a sweepstakes. While these games look like slot machines, they look like something that you might see at a casino. The biggest distinction to make is that these are not actual slot machines. Just because they look like it does not mean that they are. Every time you push that digital button, all you're doing is it's giving you a visual, it's giving you something to do while you are entering into a sweepstakes contest. If you remember back in the early 2000s, it was a really common thing for soda companies to run promotions, run sweepstakes, where you could open the bottle lid of a soda pop and it would show you either winner or loser. Essentially, when you participate in a social casino and you decide to make a purchase of gold coins, convert it into sweeps coins, basically that's the same thing as you buying a pallet of these soda pop drinks, and every time that you push the button, you're unscrewing the cap to reveal winner or loser. The long story short to this is that these are not slot machines, nor do they operate anything like a slot machine. And unfortunately, they trick millions of people every single year into thinking that they are just like a normal slot that you would play at a casino. So that is how a social casino or a sweepstakes casino actually operates. The issues, however, with these oftentimes start when it comes time for you to redeem your prize or redeem your sweeps coins. Because now for the redemption process, you have to backtrack through all of those legal loopholes to try to get your money back. And remember, you are not actually participating in a gambling activity that is licensed and regulated as a gambling activity. You are participating in a sweepstakes, which has its own unique, different set of rules without any type of player protection. If you're cashing out something, say $20, you might not have an issue, but the issues really tend to arise for people when they happen to win something big and they go to cash out. Many times these overseas operators can cut a user off for any reason whatsoever. They might say something like, oh, your license photo was blurry and we couldn't see it, so we have to deny you, or we couldn't verify your address, so we have to deny it. And well, you guessed it, this leaves many users in the dark without their funds, with again, no protections to actually recover what they want. So what does real gambling online actually look like? Let's take a look at those legitimate registered legal casinos here in the United States. Are they like slot machines, and what protections do you, the player, actually have? Legal companies that operate here in the United States, such as FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, and MGM, they have to have a mutual compact with their state in which they operate in. The games by law must operate the same as a traditional slot machine would in that jurisdiction. The programming and servers of these legitimate online games are subject to Gaming Commission oversight, and these games must go through a lengthy system of checks, balances, and approval to ensure fairness and to ensure randomness. Once a player has been successfully verified as being able to play on one of these legal casino platforms, then it will operate just like a traditional brick and mortar casino would in that area. If a player ever does encounter an issue or has a dispute with a legal online casino, then there is a system of recourse that a player can go to an actual gaming commission and contact somebody for additional oversight of the issue. Big important thing to note here is that a legal and registered online casino in the United States cannot just make changes or alterations to the programming on their servers. These programs and these servers are subject to Gaming Commission approval and are also controlled by those gaming commissions. Whereas a social casino, a sweepstakes casino, can make whatever changes or alterations that they want to at any time. Both of these entities, both social casinos, those sweepstakes casinos, and legitimate online casinos can all claim randomness in some way, shape, or form. However, only one of those actually has a system of checks, balances, and protections in place, and that is legal registered online casinos. Now, I did mention a few red flags earlier in this episode, but let's get into number 5, which is the cautions that you really need to be aware of before you decide to plug in that bank account information and start playing online. Number 1, make sure that you understand and know the difference between a sweepstakes casino and a legitimate online casino. With this one, you cannot rely solely on marketing ploys. These social casinos, they're very smart. They have implemented a lot of marketing tactics to pull millions of people in. Sweepstakes casinos oftentimes will hide many of their rules and regulations into a giant word salad of fine print. The sad part is, again, millions every single year are tricked into thinking that these are legitimate, or these are online casinos, or that they are real online slots, when in reality they are not. If you are ever in doubt, you can always double check your state's laws when it comes to internet gambling. Another thing that you can always do is go to some place that is legitimate, such as FanDuel, DraftKings, MGM, Caesars, or one of the other many legitimate companies that your state might offer, and then try to enter your information and see if it allows you to play. If those websites will not allow you to play, then that should send up a red flag to you for another third-party site that says, hey, it's okay, come on over here, you can play here. That should raise an alarm. Number 2, just because a sweepstakes might be legal in your state does not immediately make it safe or right to do. Again, majority of these overseas social casinos have no legal protections here in the United States, and they will use several different marketing tactics to make players feel safe, or they might say things like, we have a gaming license. It's not honored in the United States, but we have a gaming license, or yeah, our results are random. They say these things, but they don't operate like a real slot machine would. Not only are we talking about actual gameplay on social casinos, but you also have to remember and take into account that many of these social casinos are based in countries or jurisdictions that have little to no protection for personal data. This includes your financial information that you send them. Number 3, regardless of what you choose or what is available in your area, be it a social casino or a legitimate online regulated casino, budget control is always going to be key. In a traditional brick and mortar casino environment, it is very easy to get carried away and to lose track. But now, when gaming is at your fingertips, it can happen a lot more easily and be a lot more dangerous. If you ever feel that it is getting out of hand, know that there are resources available to help you that are always free. But just always keep in mind that it is going to be a lot harder when you are playing games at your house. It's going to be a lot harder to step away than if you were to actually go to a brick and mortar casino. At the end of the day, it is going to be your choice on if you would like to play games on the internet. But at least now you are aware and you have the information to make an informed decision. Always remember that before you enter your bank account information onto anything on the internet, don't go in blind, and make sure that you are always protected. And again, I cannot stress this enough, do not fall for marketing ploys of these social casinos. I would love to hear your comments down below. Again, please do keep it civil, and I hope you were able to learn something today. Be sure to share this video with friends or family that might be gambling online so that they can also be informed as well. Give this video a like, a subscribe will be nice, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Check out these other videos and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more slot tips. It's always free. Visit ropethejackpot.com for free guides and a whole lot more. Catch you on the next episode.